All right, let's talk about a story that will grab you by the throat and refuse to let go. Imagine being trapped in a house where the walls whisper your darkest secrets. Your husband might be a monster, and your only friend is a ghost girl who just appeared from the woods. This is the twisted reality of Willow, and trust me, what you think is happening is not even close to the truth. We meet Willow, a woman who is a prisoner in every sense of the word. She hasn't left her house in, well, she can't remember how long. Her world has shrunk to the four walls of the home she grew up in, a garden in the back that seems to have a life of its own, and her husband, Liam. And Liam, oh boy, Liam is a whole basket of red flags. He's the kind of guy who insists she pull her hair back for dinner because he once found a single strand in his soup. He's constantly telling her that her anxieties are just mind spiders, basically gaslighting her into thinking she's losing it. Willow's life is a rigid routine of cooking, cleaning, and trying to piece together a past that's been shattered into a million pieces. Her main obsession is a locked room upstairs with faded floral wallpaper. She knows deep in her bones that bad things happened in that room, but the memories are like smoke. When she's alone, she sneaks in, staring at the wallpaper until the thorny vines seem to peel off the walls and wrap around her, feeding on her until she becomes part of the pattern. It's unsettling, it's creepy, and it's the only thing that feels real to her besides her garden, where she hums lullabies to something buried beneath the flowers. The tension with Liam is so thick you could cut it with one of his perfectly polished knives. One night, Willow makes his favorite meal, meatloaf. And during dinner, she has this horrifying hallucination where she spits out a wet rose petal. She's trembling, but Liam just calmly looks at her and goes, "Willow, love? Have you been eating flowers again?" while pointing to her hand, where there's nothing but chewed up meatloaf. I mean, come on. The man is a master manipulator. Her reality is already so fragile, and he just keeps chipping away at it. Her day alone gets even worse. She finds a knife and has this intense, terrifying urge to just end it all. She fights it off, burying the knife in the garden with her other secrets, but then she has a full-blown vision of a little girl getting hit by a truck right outside. She runs out to help, but there's no girl, no truck, just a couple of kids who call her crazy and run off. She is completely unraveling, and you're just screaming at the screen for her to get out of that house. But she can't. The next night, she accidentally makes meatloaf again, and Liam's reaction is pure menace. When he asks what she did all day, she tells him the truth about the knife and the dead girl vision. His response? Well, love, that may not have been so terrible if you'd gone through with it. Just ice cold. Then he drops the bomb. He's hired landscapers to tear out her garden, her one sanctuary. This pushes her over the edge, and the argument ends with him flipping the entire dining room table and everything. The next morning, it's all cleaned up like it never happened, and she notices her wrists are raw, hinting that he's restraining her in her sleep. This is when things get even weirder. A little girl with blonde pigtails who introduces herself as Sarah wanders out of the woods. There's an instant, almost supernatural connection between them. Willow finally has a friend, someone who understands her. When the landscapers show up, Willow, in a rare moment of strength, lies and tells them they can't afford the work, sending them away. It's a small victory, but it feels huge. Of course, Liam finds out. He's furious she's talking to the neighbor girl and that she defied him. As punishment, he marches into the garden and stomps her beautiful red poppies into the dirt. Devastated, Willow later sees Sarah again, and in her panic to protect her, she grabs the little girl and frantically warns her about the bad man, which of course terrifies Sarah, who runs away crying. Willow is left feeling like she's ruined the only good thing in her life. The routine with Liam continues its descent into a surreal nightmare. He doesn't come home one night, and she ends up having a hallucination of being drowned in the bathtub. When she comes downstairs, he's there, serving a feast of rotting food, forcing her to pretend to eat it. Then he drags her out to the garden with a shovel to dig it all up, but the scene splinters, and she's back in the tub with only muddy footprints as evidence it might have happened. The story just spirals from here. Convinced Liam is poisoning her mind, Willow starts hiding the 5 pills he gives her every night. Staying awake, she discovers he never actually sleeps in their bed. Then she sees a newspaper. Sarah is missing. This solidifies her belief that Liam is a monster who has done something to her friend. Her world dissolves into a full-blown horror show. Liam appears as a statue, a swarm of death's head moths, an unkillable man she stabs through the heart to no effect. The house itself becomes her enemy, sewing her to the couch with thick black thread. She tries to get help, making a desperate trip to the nearby town, but the people there are all faceless mannequins. She causes a scene at the grocery store, the same one from the incident that supposedly started her agoraphobia, and Liam appears out of nowhere to drag her home. The police and a social worker named Elaine show up, but they only make things worse, telling her Liam was her husband, but they divorced 10 years ago and he lives a new life with a new family. To Willow, this is just more proof of a massive conspiracy. Finally, the walls of the house seem to guide her to the basement, to a vault of forgotten memories. She finds a box of old photos. In them, she sees a man with a red beard, not Liam, in pictures with her and a baby girl. She's convinced the man in her house is an imposter who has stolen her life and her child. This is it, the answer she's been searching for. She confronts the man who calls himself Liam, who continues to gaslight her, even making the photo magically change to show the real Liam. But the confrontation triggers the final repressed memory. She remembers being pregnant with her miracle baby, Rose, right after her parents died in a car crash. And then the most horrific memory of all floods back. Overwhelmed with postpartum psychosis, while Liam was away on business, she neglected her baby. After Rose died, Willow, completely broken from reality, rocked her baby's lifeless body for 4 days until Liam came home and found them. And this is where the entire story flips on its head, because everything we just saw, every terrifying moment, every whisper from the walls, has all been happening inside Willow's mind. The narrative suddenly pulls back and we learn the truth. Our narrator isn't Willow in her house, it's a young psychiatric nurse named Sarah. Willow is her patient, a woman who has been in a catatonic vegetative state for years, trapped in the aftermath of her trauma. The house is her hospital room. The garden is the one outside her window. All the characters we met were real people from her life, twisted into figures in her looping mental nightmare. The ghostly little girl, Sarah, was her kind nurse, whom Willow's mind cast as a lost child she needed to save. Dr. Bellinger, the red-bearded man from the photos, is her real-life psychiatrist. Elaine is her social worker. And Liam is her real husband who visits her constantly, but his grief and pain have curdled into a dark, quiet form of revenge. He believes on some level that she is responsible for their daughter's death, and while she lies unresponsive, he leans in and whispers cruel taunts, things like, "You know what you did," ensuring her mind stays fractured and she never finds peace. He actively keeps her trapped in her nightmare. The story ends where it began, but from a new, heartbreaking perspective. Inside her own head, Willow's mind resets. She's back in her imaginary kitchen, humming, pulling a meatloaf from the oven, happily waiting for the good, loving version of Liam to come home, doomed to repeat her story forever. It just leaves you wondering, what happens when grief turns into something monstrous? Let me know your thoughts on that gut punch of an ending in the comments. And if you're into stories that mess with your head like this one, make sure to like and subscribe for more.